When Sir Jim Ratcliffe took control of footballing operations at United, the Manchester-born billionaire was somewhat welcomed in as a homegrown hero, ready to save the club from the dark days of the Glazers. But in just 12 months, he became a punch bag for many fans. So what happened? Let's take a look and you can decide for yourself. The important context here is that over the last 3 years, the club has lost over 300 million quid. And from day dot, Ratcliffe committed to fixing this, which of course is the right thing for the club. But what seemed to get fans' backs up is the way Sir Jim Ratcliffe, accompanied by Sir Dave Brailsford, went about it. For example, talkSPORT understands their lunch options at the Carrington canteen have been reduced to just soup and sandwiches, which the higher-ups at the club say will save them £1 million a year. Now that might make sense for many who don't get free meals at work themselves, but it gets a little bit more picky than that. It was reported that after staff brought some stationery, they were ordered to send sellotape back because it wasn't considered essential. The reward for being Steward of the Week used to be 50 quid, but that was scrapped and replaced by a paper certificate. And such is the grip Ratcliffe has on spending, he reportedly scrapped company credit cards, meaning some staff racking up hundreds of pounds worth of expenses and spending weeks out of pocket waiting to be reimbursed. But it's not just the stingy decisions around the amount of tea bags in the cafeteria. In 2024 alone, Ratcliffe oversaw 250 redundancies and more were announced at the beginning of 2025. Now, while there are people who acknowledge that United staff numbers are overinflated, it's the optics which aren't great. Because while all this has been going on, Casemiro's getting paid 350 grand a week, and the club forked out 14 million quid getting rid of Eric Ten Hag and Dan Ashworth. But United fans' rage doesn't just stop here at the cuts. Ratcliffe's unpopular decision to introduce a flat ticket price of 66 quid for every fan, even children, certainly did not go down well. For fans, it feels like the very foundation of the club's support is being attacked for the sake of making marginal financial gains. But Ratcliffe has backed it, saying if you shy away from difficult decisions, then nothing is going to change. And time will tell whether these measures will improve.
Good evening, this is the British and Irish Lions kick-off preview show here on talkSPORT as we look ahead to tomorrow morning's all-important second test between the Wallabies and the Lions. I'm Olly Clink, thanks for your company. Alongside me tonight, what a treat, we have former London Irish and England winger and the co-host of talkSPORT 2's Lions Uncaged, none other than the legend that is Topsy Ojo. Topsy, how you doing?
Hey Ollie, I'm very good, very good. Happy to be here, excited for the next 2 hours and of course the big game tomorrow morning. Can't wait. You know, game 2, series on the line. Yeah, mate, it's going to be awesome.
It's heating up, isn't it?
It is what you want. And, you know, like, see, the first test kind of whet the appetite. Could be a decider tomorrow. Depends which camp you sit. You want the Lions to win 3-0 or you want it to be 1-1 so you get the third test decider. I mean, let's hope for a classic tomorrow. I think that's what everybody's hoping and praying for, that it is a classic encounter. We see the best of Australia. We see an even better Lions going head-to-head and yeah, 90,000 in the stadium, taking it all in.
Going to be incredible. At the moment, the British and Irish Lions lead the series 1-0 and in less than 24 hours' time, they have the opportunity to earn rugby immortality, a win at the home of Australian sport. The MCG, in front of 100,000 people, would give the Lions their first series win in 12 years, and it would be the first time in history the Lions have won back-to-back series in the same country. For the Wallabies, it is do or die to keep the series alive. They simply must win. And you can hear all the action unfold live and exclusively here on talkSPORT tomorrow.
Pride of Lions. From misty pubs and muddy boots, they flew with banter, stakes and suits.
Here we go, test match series up and running. The Lions kick off.
The Lions, bold, a touring band, to point red streaks on Aussie land.
Joey Palatu gliding to the right-hand side.
They train like beasts, then feast like kings, with bruised up ribs and barstool zing.
Oh, Owen Farrell's got it. Now the push and shove is here this evening.
1 minute scrums, the next to sing. A pride that jokes but fears nothing.
We are taking them, boys. to the Hurt Arena this weekend.
Scottish Grant and Leinster Soul, a Cockney Jab and Valleys roll. 4 nations, one very wild crew, with dreams stretched deep in red, gold, white, green and dark blue.
The British and Irish Lions win 2 games to 1 with a remarkable performance in Sydney.
No fancy flair, just grit and grind.
Dan Sheehan gets a massive bend off.
A killer edge with heart behind.
It ain't about taking part, it ain't about being here, it's about winning.
So raise a glass, the Lions are here.
Test match rugby, everything goes up a notch.
With boots and laughs, with no damn fear.
From now on, gloves are off. It's bare knuckle stuff.
They came as men from different shores to go into test week. Let's hear the Red Sea roll.
Ready for war. Even I'm ready to go out and play after hearing that. It's finally here. The British and Irish Lions take on the Wallabies in the all-important second test of this series tomorrow, live and exclusively right here on talkSPORT in Melbourne, Australia, with coverage starting from 10 o'clock. Kick-off at 11. Shabana Hearn will be your host for that one, and she'll be joined by 2013 Lions legend Alex Cuthbert, as well as Wallabies all-time record try scorer David Campese, and your commentary team of former Lion Ben Kay and Andrew McKenna. By the way, the voice you just heard on that piece was a snippet of a poem written by the Lions prop, Pierre Schumann. You can find the full poem on the Lions social media channels. I mean, it gets the blood pumping, doesn't it, Topsy?
Yeah, Pierre the poet. Who knew? I mean, props have a weird and wonderful way of showcasing these skills that we never knew they had. You know, you see him out on the pitch kind of snarling and grunting and you think, hang on, you write poetry, but he's a talented man, very talented.
He is indeed, well delivered as well, wasn't it? I mean, when we look at this, you know, nothing else really matters now, does it, for these Lions player? Because, I mean, as we say, it is the chance, isn't it, to write your name in history. There's so much significance heading into tomorrow. How do you think those players are feeling?
It's a really difficult one because, like you say, you're on the cusp of perhaps the biggest game of your career, and yet you need to prepare for it as if it was almost any other game you've played. You know, the night before, you don't want to play the game too early. So obviously mentally you'll go over it in your head and you'll rehearse, you know, moves and line outs, and you'll start to play out in your mind, but you're still 24 hours away. And it's also a night game the next day as well. So there's actually a lot of waiting time. So the night before, you try and relax. Obviously you spend time with the boys, you're with your roommates, you know, you play darts, you have a little green tea or whatever it is, stick a film on, you take it nice and casual. The next morning, wake up, breakfast, stretch your legs. I'm sure they'll do some stuff. They'll go for a walk, maybe some stuff in the hotel car park. Because, like I say, I didn't like night games because it's a long time waiting. I would like to get up, wake up, get into breakfast and get to the stadium. But those night games are a bit different. But you're more mentally preparing yourself for what's to come. You're understanding the magnitude of the occasion, but you know that I need to time my peak so that come 7:30 or whatever time kickoff is that evening, I'm ready to go. So even like, you know, saying in the day now, they probably have a little nap. Yeah. Little disco nap, little power nap in the day, because again, like, you want to maintain your energy levels and make sure you peak at the right time. But that excitement builds. It's massive. You know it's massive.
Oh, yeah.
You try and play it down, but you know it in your mind and with all your family and friends flying halfway around the world to come and be at this occasion in front of what's going to be a huge crowd. I mean, it is what you dream of. I know, I think it was Ollie Chessman spoke about that this week as well. It is what you dream of, but you understand that there's a job to do and all your energy goes into that.
Let's get down to business then, shall we? Let's talk about the squad that Andy Farrell has picked for this test, which he named yesterday. I'll quickly run through it just so we're across it all. The props will be Andrew Porter and Ty Furlong. The hookers, Dan Sheehan. Maro Itoje and Ollie Chessum will be in second row. Ty Byrne and Tom Curry are the flankers with Jack Conan at number 8. Then Jamison Gibson Park at number 9 with Finn Russell at 10. The winger is James Lowe and Tommy Freeman. And then in the centres, Bundy Aki and Hugh Jones with Hugo Keenan at fullback. If we just look at that starting 15 first, I mean, Hugh Jones, I think, is the interesting one. There's been so much talk about the centres, and of course Gary Ringrose was going to be starting. He's pulled out with concussion, which Andy Farrell has said is a hugely selfless thing to do, that he said, look, I'm not ready for this game, and instead Hugh Jones has come in. But in that first test, what I wanted to ask you about, Topsy, is the fact that I thought the two centres were arguably the best two players. Were you surprised that change was going to happen anyway?
I really was, because obviously injury ruled out Gary Ringrose in the instance, and I think you looked at the way the warm-up games were going, and Andy Farrell was probably leaning towards, right, it's either going to be the Scottish pair or the Irish pair. I think that injury meant he lent for the Scottish pair to Pelotu and Hugh Jones, and they played really well. They played really well, and I guess I've always kind of felt and seen that if you perform well in the shirt, you get to keep it. But I think what we've seen through this week is ultimately Gary Ringrose was definitely his first choice 13, which probably lent itself to Bundy Aki being the first choice 12. Now,
because you want the Irish pairing, don't you?
Yeah, I think you've seen that, look, as much as they should be able to play together, the Lions is about building combinations. When you've got two players next to each other, side by side, that know each other so well, bring the best out of each other, that lends itself to helping the team. So now you're in a position whereby you want to bring that pair back in. Gary Ringrose, unbelievably selfless, like courageous as well, because I'd say in years gone by that wouldn't have happened. You know, we've just spoken about it. You're on the cusp of potentially the biggest game of your career, and you have the selflessness, the self-awareness to say, I'm not ready. I've got a history of concussions. My health comes before the sport. Like, that is huge. But it leads you in a situation now where you're pairing together Bundy Aki, Hugh Jones, who haven't played together since the very start of the tour. So be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm sure they will have trained together and run reps, especially this week. But yeah, interesting for Hugh Jones, because you go from playing really, really well in the test, thinking you're going to retain your spot, being left out, and then being told again, oh, you're back in now, you're starting. That's a lot of mental gymnastics in that, but undoubtedly he'll turn up and play. Yeah,
we'll talk about that in a bit more detail in just a moment. First, though, let's hear from Andy Farrell. He's been speaking to talkSPORT's very own Alfie Reynolds and Loosehead prop Andrew Porter as well. They spoke about the magnitude of this game, the performance they're hoping to give.
We're the privileged ones that get the opportunity to do something special and hopefully create a bit of history. There's a determined Australian side that's in our way that's going to try and stop us to do that. So it's a hell of a test.
It's a huge occasion, but like we're there to play the game and not the occasion. Like, you've got such experience in this squad, such talent, and that's something we've been building in the last few weeks. And yeah, like Andy's been saying, we've been looking for that perfect performance, and it's overdue now. So it's I suppose it's been waiting the last 6 weeks to come, and hopefully it comes out this weekend.
Andrew Porter, who heard from there, he's taking over from Ellis Genge at Loosehead too. What do you think that decision is down to? I guess when you look at the first test, the Lions did fade a bit in that second half. Is that to maybe prevent that happening? We know how important finishes are, of course, in rugby.
Yeah, I think it lends itself to, if you look at the second half, that drop-off would probably be the biggest disappointment from the back end of the game. You know, the Lions were in complete control and probably never at risk of losing, but that drop-off gave Australia hope, told them that they could score. It actually ended up 3 tries apiece and gave them just little crumbs of comfort to take away from that game coming into Test 2. So Andrew Porter comes in. They'll be hoping for a bit more change out of the scrum. I know Ellis Genge was probably disappointed that he didn't get a few decisions, but I really feel for him as well, because he played brilliantly. Like, some of his carries were, it's like the Ellis Genge of old. You know, he's back to his rampaging best, and his reward for playing so well is you get to finish the game. But, you know, he won't say that, and obviously there is an importance of finishers, and his job will be to make sure that when he comes on minute 50, 60, you pick up where Andrew's left off. In fact, you take it to another level, bring that aggression, bring that energy, bring the disappointment as well. I know you want to start this game, but I need you to finish strongly and be there at the final whistle when hopefully the Lions have won 2-0.
In terms of the backs, Hugo Keenan keeps his place at fullback, and the wingers Tommy Freeman and James Lowe, who you could say have maybe not been at their best so far in this tour, they keep their place as well. Do you think maybe some of them are a bit lucky to have kept that?
Yeah, I think Hugo Keenan actually did all right. I know there were 1 or 2 issues here and there, but generally speaking, given the tour he's had, his difficulty with illness and injury, I thought he actually played all right. The wingers, I was maybe a bit more fearful for. I think it was an interesting game whereby they couldn't quite get themselves into it, and whenever they tried, it looked a bit forceful, probably a few too many errors than they would have liked. So I thought if there were going to be changes, it might be on the wings. But again, maybe Andy Farrell said, look, you know, I believe in what you guys can do. I've seen you perform so well over the last 12 months for your countries, particularly Tommy Freeman, you know, scoring in every game in the Six Nations. So you guys get to go again. I think, and if you look at what's happened in the centres as well, all of a sudden then you're changing 4 of the backs, which is actually quite a lot. So maybe he's decided centres is where I'm going to make the change.
Topsy, there is so much to get into. We haven't even mentioned Owen Farrell yet.
Have we not?
How?
We're the
How
only
has
ones
that
who
happened?
haven't. The only ones who haven't.
Oh, no, don't worry. We've got a full 2 hours to get into that. And coming up from 8:30 as well, we're joined by England legend Lawrence Dallaglio in studio too. So can't wait for that. We'll talk about his Lions days as well as the current team as well. This is the British and Irish Lions kick-off preview with coverage sponsored by Tenor Men. Keep control. Don't forget the talkSPORT network has been your home of the Lions for the last 12 years, and this year is no different. We'll bring you the final 2 test matches live and exclusively here on talkSPORT, with the all-important second test taking place tomorrow morning. Our coverage for that one starts at 10 with kick-off at 11. In a moment, here on talkSPORT, we're going to be hearing from the Lions captain, Maro Itoje, and we might talk about Owen Farrell.
Gibson Park will recycle. Furlong to Russell. Russell with a big ball into midfield. To Ipolotu will glide into the right-hand side. And the man they've been calling the Australian-born Sione Tuipulotu in the local media gets the first try of the first test. 8.5 minutes played. Australia 0. British and Irish Lions 8.
Well, Finn Russell, take a bow. 2 unbelievable passes.
What a start it was. This is the British and Irish Lions kick-off preview here on talkSPORT. I'm Olly Clink. Alongside me is the former London Irish and England winger, Topsy Ojo. You just heard Sione Tuipulotu's try from the Lions' opening test match win over the Wallabies in Brisbane last week. We'll speak about that first test in just a moment, but first, the PDC Darts World Match Play semi-finals are underway in Blackpool. Over on talkSPORT 2, Ian Danter is watching for talkSPORT.
Evening to you, Ollie. Topsy, well, the final 2 semi-final spots will be decided tonight, and the first of the quarterfinals is already underway. And the world champion, Luke Littler, the teenage sensation from not too far from Blackpool, finds himself 3-2 up against the former UK Open champion Goldfinger Andrew Gilding. Everything's gone with throw so far, but Luke Littler has that laser focus, it seems, in his eyes this evening, and has been very, very neat and tidy on the outer ring so far. The winner of that will play the winner of the following match, the last quarter-final, which takes place later. Gerwyn Price up against the World Cup winner Josh Rock. He won that World Cup for Northern Ireland with his partner Daryl Gurney. Price beat Gurney in an ill-tempered encounter a couple of rounds ago. How will Price fare against Rock? Price, arguably the form player coming into this tournament. It's all live over on the talkSPORT Darts YouTube page, and of course right now it's live as well. Darts on the radio, Ollie, on talkSPORT 2.
And it just works. Stance, thank you very much indeed. Now, on that first test then, Topsy, there were plenty of positives, of course, to take from that win against the Wallabies. But there were a few problems in the second half. The intensity kind of simmered away a bit. Just before I get your thoughts, let's hear from the captain, Maro Itoje, following that match.
Today was a good performance, particularly the first half. You know, when you play test match rugby at this level, everything doesn't go your way, and that was, you know, probably the story of the second. But as Big Faz said, absolutely delighted to win, absolutely delighted to get this test series off to a 1-0 start.
Yeah, let's be honest, you know, the result is the most important thing, of course. And when we look at those positives, Topsy, what were the main takeaways for you, especially from that first half from the Lions?
The tone was set from minute 2 when I think Tom Curry smashed, I think it was James Slipper. Ty Byrne won the penalty turnover and the Lions were on the scoreboard within 3 minutes. That physical intent, that aggression, it set the tone for everything the Lions wanted to do in that opening half, opening 50 minutes, both with and without the ball. So when they were carrying, they were direct, they were over the gain line, they gave Gibson Park and Russell an armchair ride to do whatever they needed to do with the ball in hand. And in defence, I mean, I was saying this to Alfie Reynolds in our Lions Uncaged podcast, it was almost like Australia would get just outside the Lions 22 and then this brick wall would form and they just couldn't get through it no matter how hard they tried. Yes, they got a score through a kick, but they had no answers for what the Lions were bringing physically. So up to 50 minutes, it was a near perfect performance. Then the second half drop-off came, and look, I think that was down a lot to the subs that came on didn't perform at the level they would have wanted. There were more mistakes in the loose, in the set piece. Those were compounded by penalties, and you do that, you give any opposition easy entries into your 22, you put yourselves under pressure. So that bit needs tidying up. But if the Lions can produce what they did in the opening half and even get a level above that, they give themselves every chance of a 2-0.
Did it almost feel to you, though, like the substitutes affected the rhythm of the Lions? Is that something that Andy Farrell needs to address and maybe has addressed with the changes he's made?
Yeah, he would have looked at the bench for sure. But actually, look, you expect the players to come on and pick up from where the starters are. You can't legislate for overthrown lineouts, drop balls, and then scrum penalties. That happens in a game, but that's the role of a substitute, a finisher. You know, the boys in the first 50 have done everything asked of them. They've emptied the tank. They've got nothing more to give. Now's your turn to show what you can do. And yeah, the substitutes probably didn't perform to the level they wanted to.
Talking of the subs bench, Owen Farrell finds himself on it
yes,
for this next test. I mean, it's just caused so much noise, this, hasn't it, throughout in terms of his inclusion in this squad. Where do you stand on all of this? Because there has been some criticism about his involvement, but do you see it as only a positive, really, for the Lions, that he will be involved?
Absolutely, for this test. And yes, I think injuries have helped his case in terms of no Tuipulotu in the centres means that actually England, speaking England already, I'm jumping ahead of myself. The Lions need another option at 12 and also someone that can cover 10. So that's maybe where he's jumped ahead of Marcus Smith. Owen's a really interesting one. You know, I've spent quite a fair bit of time with him and he's a great guy, like very chilled out. Obviously, he becomes this animal when he's on the pitch, demand standards and that. I think with him, he becomes an easy target sometimes. And actually, a lot of the criticism that's levelled with him, yes, he's got some tackle technique issues to work with, but it becomes very personal with Owen, which it doesn't need to be. I think the players will always accept criticism of performances, but it becomes a bit more personal with him. And I think, you know...
How will he be finding that, do you think, as someone who knows him?
Well, the last year's been very interesting for him. Obviously, going away to France, trying to settle in a new club and not really, and coming back home to Saracens. I think right now, he'll probably be the happiest he's been in a couple of years. I think, knowing that he's coming back to Saracens, knowing he's moving back to England, being in a Lions environment, surrounded by former friends, former teammates, back in a Lions jersey. I mean, 4th test. This is stuff that people can only dream of. So I think he's taken it upon himself to enjoy every moment he's getting at the minute. And he would have dreamed of this, not said it out loud, but here he is on the bench in the 2nd test. I mean, who would have thought? Some did, some didn't. And he's going to go out tomorrow night and be great, because he was great on Tuesday. In amongst all the chaos of that First Nations game, he was quietly confident, did the basics very, very well, and actually just kept things ticking forward, which was huge.
And could make an impact tomorrow as well. Let's move on and speak about the Wallabies now. Australia fullback Tom Wright spoke to talkSPORT's Andrew McKenna earlier today, and he was asked about the enormity of this game.
Just the spectacle of the game itself. I think I mentioned before to Chris's question around not so much thinking about the full game and how there's going to be so many people there, but understanding they're going to be there, and how loud that'll be, and how in 10, 15 years' time, will I look back on this game? Absolutely. Probably never going to play in front of 100,000 people again, but the enormity of the game is what it is. But we've just got to focus on the actual game. External noise will be there. Try our best to block it out. Hopefully, there's more gold cheering than there is red. That'd be nice.
Rob Valentini and Will Skelton have returned to the squad for Australia, which are big additions up front, but no changes to the backs. Does that surprise you, Topsy? Because it felt for me during that first test that there was a bit of a lack of creativity throughout a lot of that game.
Yeah, a little bit. I guess what Joe Schmidt is maybe saying there, that the backs didn't have the platform to do much with. You need to be going forward. You need at least parity in terms of the physical battle to give yourselves a chance. And I actually thought Australia didn't look too bad when they looked to go a bit wider with the ball, but when they were then asked to be a bit more direct and confrontational with the Lions, they just didn't have what they needed to then get back on the front foot. So, you got a young 10 in there as well, in Tom Liner, his first start in 4 tests. And
how did you think he got on?
It was tough. It was really tough. I mean, you could see him trying, but you contrast him to Finn Russell opposite him, who had an armchair ride. It was chalk and cheese. So I think, again, we didn't give you what you needed as a young 10. So here's now 2 big unit forwards coming back into the team. Here's 6 forwards on the bench as well. So hopefully we'll give you more of a platform to do what we believe you can.
By the way, Topsy, it's meant to be absolutely lashing it down in Melbourne tomorrow. How much could that affect the game that we see between these two sides?
It's going to be a huge game changer. It might level things out. It might mean we see a bit more 10-man rugby, puts a bit more of a spotlight on players like Liner in terms of, right, the forwards are going to go toe-to-toe to establish a platform. You guys now need to put us in the right positions. You need to kick well. You need to move the ball well. You need to give it to the backs when it's the right time to do so. But it might mean we're going to see a more tactical, a more cagey game, especially in the first 20 minutes. Something that Tom Liner has done well through the Super Rugby season. But, I mean, this is a different occasion, isn't it, altogether?
Absolutely.
So your second test start, I think in his 5th cap, go and win against the Lions in front of 90 to 100,000 people at the MCG. No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, obviously. By the way, I quite enjoyed turning into talkSPORT's weatherman just then as well.
We always do, don't we?
The latest in Melbourne, of course. We'll speak in more depth about the Wallabies in about an hour's time with Australian rugby writer Julian Linden. So stick around for that, for a bit more of a lowdown on the Wallabies. You're listening to British and Irish Lions kickoff preview live on talkSPORT with coverage sponsored by Tenor Men. Find out more at tenormen.co.uk. Don't forget, by the way, we've got another incredible weekend of live sporting action here on talkSPORT tomorrow. All kicks off with the Lions' all-important second test against the Wallabies. All the coverage starts from 10 o'clock over on talkSPORT 2 across the weekend. We're bringing you live commentary of the finals of the World Darts Match Play up in Blackpool. Plus, if that wasn't enough, we're also over in Switzerland for the big one. The Lionesses looking to defend their European Championship final against Spain on talkSPORT this Sunday from 4 o'clock with kick-off at 5. The summer of sports is in full swing, Topsy, right here on talkSPORT. Right, in just a moment, we're going to be joined in the studio by one of the all-time Lions greats. What a treat this will be. He went on 3 different tours, winning 3 Lions caps. It's none other than the legend that is Lawrence Dallaglio. He'll be with us next.
He made us all sing, and we had a small choir, and we ended up doing the backing vocals for Tina Turner.
What a drive from Dallaglio! That is incredible! A sensational individual score from Lawrence Dallaglio.
What does it mean to be picked for the British and Irish Lions? What does it mean to you? And for me, it's the greatest honour I could ever receive as a rugby player. It is the pinnacle of my career.
He was a warrior with brains. He had so much physicality, but he just knew how to read the game really, really well. And he was captain fantastic.
Let's put it in. England have won
the 2003 World Cup.
World Cup.
Looking forward to this. This is the British and Irish Lions kickoff preview show here on talkSPORT as we continue to build up to the all-important second test between the Wallabies and the Lions on talkSPORT. I'm your host, Olly Clink, alongside me, former London Irish and England winger Topsy. And as you heard there, it's time to welcome to the show a very, very special guest. He toured 3 times with the Lions to all 3 Southern Hemisphere sides, 97 to South Africa, 2001 to Australia and 2005 to New Zealand, won 3 Lions caps during that time. He made 85 appearances for England, winning the World Cup in 2003. He won 4 Six Nations titles, including a Grand Slam, and in 2016 was inducted into the Rugby Hall of Fame. Delighted to say very good evening to the legend that is Lawrence Dallaglio. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks very much for having me, and obviously really looking forward to tomorrow and the test match, and hopefully the Lions wrapping up the series.
Yeah. I mean, it's hotting up, isn't it? That's what we've been saying. Just very. I mean, what have you made of the tour so far?
Well, look, I mean, I think for all of us and for all the fans watching around the world, there was a lot of hype coming into the Lions tour, justifiably so, because it's such a big event. And I suppose, I mean, listen, I've enjoyed it, but I mean, I'm one of those guys who probably understands a little bit more about the differences between touring certain countries. But a lot of people who've watched it maybe haven't necessarily felt it's been as competitive as it could have been. And that's not the Lions players' fault, it's not Andy Farrell's fault. I just don't think the Australian test players not playing in the warm-up games has made maybe the warm-up games lack a little bit of edge, because the Lions have won at a canter really for most of them, without necessarily getting out of second or third gear. So and the test match itself up until the last 20-30 minutes was kind of one-way traffic. So maybe it's what we should have all expected, because the Lions went down there as overwhelming favourites. Australian rugby is not in great shape, as much as everyone tried to talk up Joe Schmidt and talk up the Australian team. They had 5 injuries to key players in that first test, and so I feel a little bit underwhelmed. But maybe we shouldn't complain about that. The Lions are trying to do something that the Lions haven't done for 12 years, which is to win a test series. No matter what's happened on the tour so far, we have to remember front of mind is that the objective of the Lions team is to win the series, right? Yeah. So if Andy Farrell and his team do that, and I'm sure they're really focused on that, then they would have achieved their job. Yeah, we'll dig into the detail of the tour in just a moment, but of course it must bring up memories for you of the tours that you went on and what it means to be a Lion. And we heard a little snippet of it there, but just how much of an honour is it and a privilege for a rugby player to get that opportunity? Yeah, I think you sort of look at the Lions and you think, well, what does it actually mean? There's obviously the history and the heritage and the tradition of previous tours. If you read about it, you understand that there's some incredible players that go before you, and it is that history, that legacy really. The only way I can describe it is if it's like getting picked for the special forces, I would imagine. If you're in one of the forces and then you go forward and you play for, you get picked for the SAS or the SBS. That's what playing for the Lions is. It's the top 5 or 10% of the players in the Northern Hemisphere. And everything about a Lions tour, maybe not this one, but everything about a Lions tour is set up to fail. You come together, from 4 different countries, you play for 1 week together or train for 1 week, then you fly to the other side of the world to ordinarily play against either the world champions or one of the best teams. And so therefore, there's been a lot of Lions tours since 1888, but there's not been that many that have come back as winning Lions. So this is why this tour is so important.
When you're on the eve of the test match and then the build up on test morning, what's that like for a player in terms of how do you manage your time? We were speaking earlier about making sure you peak for an evening fixture. So how was that like for you when you were on tour?
Yeah, I mean, I think these are more or less across the team. There's one or two exceptions, but they're vastly experienced players. They've played in huge games of rugby throughout their career, so there is a process that they would have had. They've had all week. They've had a test week. Yes, the team has changed a little bit throughout the week, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second. But it's hard to say it, but you're preparing for probably one of the biggest games of your life. But you just try and prepare in the same way as you'd prepare for one of the biggest games you've ever had. Each player has his own process that he goes through, but ultimately you've got to remember that you're trying as an individual to play the best game you've ever played in your career. And if all of those players can do that at the same time, then I've no doubt the Lions will wrap up the series.
You've talked about that jeopardy that should always be involved in a Lions test, and of course there was plenty of that back in 1997. Let's head back there now. It's the eve of one of the all-important tests, and the head coach and the Lions legend that is Sir Ian McGeechan delivered this iconic speech.
Because you'll meet each other in the street in 30 years' time, and there'll just be a look, and you'll know just how special some days in your life are. We've proved that the lion has claws and has teeth. We've wounded a springbok. When an animal is wounded, it returns in frenzy. It doesn't think. It fights for its very existence. The lion waits, and at the right point, it goes for the jugular.
I mean, it's stirring stuff, really, isn't it? What was your immediate reaction to hearing that?
Well, I mean, it's one of the iconic speeches of all time, really. Sending grown men into battle. Jim Telfer delivered something of a similar level, but Ian's one of those people that understood the Lions better than anyone, and that speech was on the eve of we'd beaten South Africa maybe against the odds in the first test in Newlands in Cape Town, and we were playing in Durban, and you know they were a ferocious team. They were the world champions. We knew that they would, you know, that they didn't expect us to win the first test, and we did. And therefore, you know, to come out in the second test, it was probably one of the most incredible atmospheres I've ever walked out into. And we actually met 25 years later, Ian McGeechan and that Lions team of 1997. We all got together. Tom Smith, sadly, was the only one who passed, but Doddy Weir was still very much with us, and he gave that similar speech. You know, in the hotel in Warwickshire where we were staying, and we were all fairly close to tears because, you know, it couldn't have been any more true. You know, we were together 25 years later. He got it wrong by 5 years, but we had the most incredible reunion of players, and we had Tom's wife there and his family, and it was pretty special. So just to bring that into context, there's an opportunity, regardless of what we think of Australia, regardless of the tour, etc., for these guys to write their own names in history and to do something that very few teams have managed to do, and that's to come back and win a Lions series. And you know, it's not easy to come together in a week, to play with players you've never played with before, to build relationships very quickly and play against a well-organised team. So, you know, good luck to them. I'm really excited about it, and I hope they can go on and win the series. If not this week, next week.
You talk about Ian McGeechan, his understanding of the Lions, which is unbelievably important. How does he compare to some of the other great coaches that you played under, would you say?
I think in coaching history, the combination of him and Jim Telfer probably were the best experience I've ever had from a Lions point of view. I mean, I subsequently had Graham Henry and Clive Woodward, but that was nothing to do with them. I got injured on the second tour fairly quickly with my knee, and I broke my leg in the first game on the New Zealand tour. So, but all I would say is that, you know, people often ask me what's the best rugby experience of your life, or what's the highlight of your rugby career, and I would have no problem in saying that, yes, you know, we were lucky enough to win the World Cup and we did some pretty cool things with England, but the 9 weeks that I spent as a Lion in South Africa was the best 9 weeks of my life. I was 24 years of age. You've got to remember, at that point in 1997, only 2 teams had been to South Africa and won a Test series. One was the 74 Lions with Willie John McBride, and the other one was the 96 All Blacks. So we were the 3rd team in history to beat the world champions. And when you have climbed Everest, in the words of Jim Telfer, at the age of 24, as a British and Irish Lion. You come back from that tour and you're a different person. Anything and everything in your career is possible after that, because you think to yourself, in every game you play, you say, well, I've beaten the Springboks in South Africa, so I know that I've got that within me to play at that level. So I think it was life affirming and life changing, and more importantly, we had a lot of fun as well.
We'll come on to that, I'm sure, in just a moment. But let's take you back to the day of the game. You're at Kings Park in Durban, 50,000 people watching, creating an absolute racket, amazing atmosphere, and the Lions centre Jeremy Guscott does this to win the game and the series in the final moments.
Dawson, have they got the self-belief? It's Guscott's drop! It's there! Jerry Guscott did go for the drop goal!
I mean, you've also been on the pitch for some absolutely incredible winning moments, of course. You know, you cannot take away from the fact that you were there for the World Cup winning moment as well, Lawrence. But just describe the feeling of what it was like to be on that pitch and see that sail over.
Well, first of all, I remember the warm-up. You know, when you go out to another country, there's we were on the pitch in Durban at Kings Park. There were more Zulu dancers on the pitch than I think I've ever seen in my life. I mean, the atmosphere was just incredible. Probably one of the biggest atmospheres. The whole kind of hospitality in the car park, the fans, and they were expectant. So we took the field. I've got to be honest, I remember the entire game. It was a ferocious game of rugby. I mean, we didn't have much ball. We spent 80 minutes defending. I mean, literally defending with our lives. And then every now and again, we managed to get into the Springboks half of the field. I mean, we were outscored 3 tries to none. And thank God we had Neil Jenkins playing fullback, because every time we got a penalty, he kicked it. And somehow, against all the odds, we managed to hang in the game. And I remember that we're going into the final quarter, Neil back turning the ball over from quite a difficult position. Keith Wood kicking the ball up the field, and then Jerry, obviously, and look, for a man of colour to do that to South Africa, I know the world's changed and rugby's changed, but you know, we weren't long post-apartheid. I just thought it was the most magical moment, really. And yeah, we still had a few minutes left to play, but
job's not done yet.
I would not have wanted the series to have gone to a game 3, because the game 3 was up in Ellis Park, and they would have had all the momentum, I think. So we knew we had to get the job done, and thanks to Jerry and to so many other players as well, it was incredible.
I want to ask you about the fun you also had on this tour, though, by the way, because actually I heard Blair Kinghorn being asked about this after one of the warm-up games. They were like, "Are you enjoying yourself?" And he said, "Oh, you know, I definitely am, but it's so intense, and you're in it, and you're a lion, and there's so much that comes with that. Sometimes you've got to remember to enjoy yourself." How did you guys remember to enjoy yourself during some of those tours?
Well, you got to remember that certainly in '97, it's a long time ago. You're there for 9 weeks. I mean, maybe it's a slightly different tour to the one that these guys are on, because I remember there being a lot of time in between games, and therefore maybe it was the last amateur first professional tour. We were able to have a few beers after the game and maybe enjoy ourselves for another day before you got into the build up to the next game. I do think on this tour, I do feel a little bit for Andy Farrell and his team, because they've been all over Australia. From what I've seen from the schedule, it's put the players in a very different sort of setup to what they're used to. They were playing games. They would have, you know, the next day is either a travel day or a day off, and then they're straight into the preparation for the next game. So it's been probably like no other tour that they've experienced, and it's probably felt for a lot of those players like they've not had the same sort of preparation time that they would normally have until they get to the test matches. So this week and last week were probably the first time that it's felt like a normal tour. Other than that, it's been a real whirlwind. And if you're a coach, you know, you're not just coaching one team, you're coaching a team on Saturday, and then you've got to prepare another team for a Tuesday or a Wednesday game. So it's quite an exhausting schedule as a coach as well. So it's something to think about anyway.
I'm going to ask you an incredibly difficult question here, but only because you alluded to it just now, and that sense of climbing Everest and conquering it when you did manage to win that series in '97. Of course, you had the World Cup in 2003. If you're honest with yourself, which achievement do you feel you treasure more?
I think the the Lions is a one-off project, and you know, listen, I, by virtue, you introduced me and said I've been on 3 Lions tours. I have, but I've only played in 3 tests because I was only fit enough to play in 3. You know, I got injured on the other 2. So the World Cup, look, it was an amazing achievement, but we were the number 1 side in the world for the last 2 or 3 years prior to that World Cup. And whilst I wouldn't have said it publicly, I kind of thought that we would win the World Cup, not out of any, you know, sense of overconfidence. We just had to sort of do what we'd been doing for the last 12 months. The Lions tour was completely different because, you know, South Africa were the world champions, so we were going to have to beat the world champions, and we were going to have to beat them with a team that had never played together before. And I don't know, when you're 31, when I won the World Cup, I'd been England captain, I'd been in the squad. The World Cup final was my 65th Test match for England. When I was with the Lions, I'd only played about 10 games for England, and I don't know, I was 24. I just felt a completely different type of rugby player. So it's very hard to compare the two, but as an experience, the 9 weeks I spent in South Africa with the Lions, 97, was the best experience of my life.
Fascinating stuff. Don't go anywhere. Up next, Lions and England legend Lawrence Dallaglio is going to take a deep dive into the importance of the breakdown tomorrow, as well as how the Lions can combat the Aussies' powerful bench. We're hanging on every word. First, though, the PDC Darts World Matchplay quarterfinals are underway in Blackpool over on talkSPORT 2. Ian Danter's watching for talkSPORT.
And Luke Littler finds himself 9-6 up against Goldfinger Andrew Gilding. It's a race to 16 in these quarterfinals, so he's won each mini session by 3 legs to 2, breaking the Gilding throw. Gilding did break back at one point, but Littler the following day just broke again to keep his advantage. He's averaging over 100 for his 3-dot average. Gilding's not far off 100 average himself and playing as steadily as he always does, but the world champion looks laser focused this evening. After this game, then Gerwin Price will take on Josh Rock in the last quarter-final of the night, and all the action you can hear live, and you can have our free watch-alongs on the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel, or alternatively tune in to talkSPORT 2 for the rest of tonight's coverage from the Winter Gardens in Blackpool.
This is the British and Irish Lions kick-off preview show here on talkSPORT. I'm Olly Clink. Alongside me, it's former London Irish and England winger Topsy, as well as Lions legend Lawrence Dallaglio. It's just over 12 hours until kick-off between the Lions and the Wallabies in that all-important second test. We're bringing you live and exclusive commentary from 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. You don't want to miss it. Lawrence, we'd love to get your thoughts, of course, on this test coming up. Let's have a quick look at tomorrow's forward pack then, as we've got you here. the loosehead prop Andrew Porter alongside Dan Sheehan and Tyg Furlong. The second row, Mario Toje and Ollie Chesham, and then Tyg Burn, Tom Curry and Jack Conan. In terms of this weekend, obviously they line up with a front row all of Leinster, a second row of all England, so they know each other well. I mean, in your opinion, how important is it to have such strong relationships in the pack?
Yeah, it is important, and it's just look. You want the best players playing, really, and look, are they the best players that have shown the best form on tour? I don't think form necessarily has counted for 100% of selection on this particular trip because of the reasons what we've already discussed. I'm not sure the opposition have been of the standard or quality to really test any of the players. So a lot of selection has been based on the stock that they've already had coming into the tour. And also, look, when you're a coach of any side, and I've worked with some of the greats of the game, you tend to go back to what is in your gut and your instinct and what you know. And is it a surprise that it would have, had Gary Ringrose remained in the starting lineup, that we would have had 10 out of 15 Irishmen starting? When the Lions won the series under Warren Gatland, he famously left out Brian O'Driscoll and he picked 10 Welshmen in the starting lineup. And so, look, as a coach, he's talked to Andy Farrell's talked about this as being the biggest game of their lives, and certainly from his point of view, it's the biggest game of his coaching career. And him and his coaches are tasked with winning the series, and they've gone with the Irishman. I mean, you look at it and you think Ellis Genge is very unlucky to be put on the bench, but as we know now, it's not about just 15 players as much as you want to start every test match. I thought Ellis Genge comes out the blocks really fast, and every time he's played, he's given a very accomplished at 50-60 minutes of rugby. What the job they're asking him to do now is off the bench. So I think maybe the selection has been based around the concerns that the Lions seem to have dropped off in the second half, and what he wants from the bench is maybe a bit more impact this week. So there must be a method behind every selection. I thought the team has been picked based on not just what everyone's physical state is, but their mental state as well. And we've got to take into account that this is a different stadium. There's going to be some different weather conditions maybe for this test match. So a lot of the it's not just about who's played well on the tour so far. There's so many other things that now go into selecting the starting team and the replacements.
Talking of the physical state of some players, obviously Gary Ringrose has pulled out of this because of concussion issues. He was going to be starting in those centres. What are your thoughts on that situation?
Well, I thought it was an amazing thing to read about and to hear that a player who has yet to play a test match for the Lions, he was picked, obviously had to drop out of the first test because of concussion. He's got a history of a few concussions as well, but to be named in the starting lineup coming off the back of the midweek performance, and then really minutes before the team is announced to have taken the decision himself and the responsibility himself to go to Andy Farrell and the medical team and to say, look, I've had a recurrence of the concussion, because I think about myself and a number of times and other players that when you're 50-50 you've tended to hang on and think, do you know what, I'll just go into this test match, and I just thought it was a real selfless act from him, not just to preserve his own himself, but also the team as well. He's put the team before himself in many ways, and hopefully it sends out a strong message to every rugby player around the world that without realising it, it's something that he's done. Gary Ringrose is send a message out to rugby players to say, well, this is us taking it incredibly seriously, because let's just put it into facts. He's pulled out of the biggest game of his life, and a game that he could have just covered it up and gone in there and played. So credit to him. And credit to Hugh Jones as well, who steps into his role now, and hopefully will play a good game.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that's probably the biggest thing from Gary Ringrose. The impact of what he's done this week is going to be felt for generations to come, because, I'd say probably Lawrence and I in an era whereby you probably would have played. I don't know many people that would have been brave enough to say, I'm about to win a Lions test cap, potentially win the series 2-0, write my name into history, and I'm going to pull myself out the game because I don't feel right.
And just to make it clear, he may not play, he may not be fit enough to play in the third test, and therefore he'll be 34 when the next Lions tour comes around. And so this is not just pulling out of one game. This is potentially pulling out of the opportunity that he could have been a Test Lion for the first and last time ever. So credit to him. I think it just shows how far, Topsy, we've come in the game of rugby, that players are now prepared to do this, and just well done to him. And it's unfortunate.
Lawrence, we've got to get your thoughts on Owen Farrell and his inclusion. He's going to be in the squad for this Test. There's been so much noise around this, hasn't there, and his inclusion. What are your thoughts on the situation and Owen Farrell's inclusion for the Test tomorrow?
Well, I thought he would. The minute, I was surprised that he wasn't named in the original touring party, and I thought he would be, either him or George Ford, and the minute he was summoned out there to Australia, there was an inevitability that Owen Farrell has been talked about as a test match animal. Every game he's played in, despite the constant backdrop of noise and a bit of toxic remarks from various people, which I don't really understand. The guy is a wonderful rugby player. There was an inevitability that he was going to play some part. And look, all I can say is from my own experience of being on a Lions tour, as senior players, the coach, the manager, the coaches come and sit down with you and say, look, we're thinking of bringing this player in to replace so-and-so who's sadly injured. We as a senior playing group had an input into every replacement that came in. So there's no way Owen Farrell is there because his dad's the coach. He's there because he's the right player to be there. And anyone who's seen him play in the couple of games that he's played, I think he's shown his real class. And given the way this Test match is and the weather conditions, he's there to cover fly half and centre. You've got Blair Kinghorn to cover the rest, and unfortunately certain players like Marcus Smith miss out now.
2 teams picked, hours away from kickoff, 90 to 100,000 in the stadium. What happens tomorrow morning?
It's an incredible game, isn't it? Well, they brought in the big dogs, haven't they? Martin Johnson's been presenting the jerseys, I think, and giving them a bit of a talk about the basics. And look, in a 3-match series, they've done the first bit, which is to get out the blocks and get a win. You want to get the series done and dusted in 2, really, because otherwise the momentum shifts the other way in a 3-match series, and all the doubt suddenly creeps into the Lions. So I'd like to say that the Lions will get the job done, because that's the way it needs to be.
Just finally, Lawrence, we've talked a lot about 97 and that series and the drama of it and the behind the scenes film that was a first ever. Do you ever reflect on that series and almost your role and that squad's role in getting the Lions to this point?
Yes, I do. And look, I'm sure we probably haven't seen it necessarily, all the footage, but I do hope that this group of players have had the opportunity to take it all in and to really enjoy themselves. And make no mistake, yes, it's a big thing individually and collectively for them as the 2025 Lions, British and Irish Lions, to come back and win. But it does create the history and the aura and the heritage of the Lions. You need to have winning Lions series. Every now and again we need to show the world that this is a team and a tour that's worthy of its status in the game. So it's not just for them and the team. It's for the future of the Lions that they're playing for. So get the job done tomorrow, lads.
Lawrence, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in. We could listen all night, and it's been fantastic to hear your memories and your thoughts about the Test. Don't go anywhere on talkSPORT. In just a moment, we're going to be joined by another Lions legend, Jonathan Davies.
When Sir Jim Ratcliffe took control of footballing operations at United, the Manchester-born billionaire was somewhat welcomed in as a homegrown hero, ready to save the club from the dark days of the Glazers. But in just 12 months, he became a punch bag for many fans. So what happened? Let's take a look and you can decide for yourself. The important context here is that over the last 3 years, the club has lost over 300 million quid. And from day dot, Ratcliffe committed to fixing this, which of course is the right thing for the club. But what seemed to get fans' backs up is the way Sir Jim Ratcliffe, accompanied by Sir Dave Brailsford, went about it. For example, talkSPORT understands their lunch options at the Carrington canteen have been reduced to just soup and sandwiches, which the higher-ups at the club say will save them £1 million a year. Now that might make sense for many who don't get free meals at work themselves, but it gets a little bit more picky than that. It was reported that after staff brought some stationery, they were ordered to send sellotape back because it wasn't considered essential. The reward for being Steward of the Week used to be 50 quid, but that was scrapped and replaced by a paper certificate. And such is the grip Ratcliffe has on spending, he reportedly scrapped company credit cards, meaning some staff racking up hundreds of pounds worth of expenses and spending weeks out of pocket waiting to be reimbursed. But it's not just the stingy decisions around the amount of tea bags in the cafeteria. In 2024 alone, Ratcliffe oversaw 250 redundancies and more were announced at the beginning of 2025. Now, while there are people who acknowledge that United staff numbers are overinflated, it's the optics which aren't great. Because while all this has been going on, Casemiro's getting paid 350 grand a week and the club forked out 14 million quid getting rid of Eric Ten Hag and Dan Ashworth. But United fans' rage doesn't just stop here at the cuts. Ratcliffe's unpopular decision to introduce a flat ticket price of 66 quid for every fan even
Good evening, this is the British and Irish Lions kick-off preview here on talkSPORT. I'm Olly Clink. Alongside me is the former England and London Irish winger Topsy. We're building up to that crucial second test between the Lions and the Wallabies. For the Lions, a win would secure their first series win in 12 years, while for Australia, it is simply do or die. They must win to keep the series alive and take us to a decider. You can hear that blockbuster unfold live and exclusively right here on talkSPORT tomorrow morning from 10 o'clock.
Pride of Lions. From misty pubs and muddy boots, they flew with banter, stakes and suits.
Here we go, test match series up and running. The Lions kick off.
The Lions, bold, a touring band, to point red streaks on Aussie land.
Glide into the right-hand side.
1 minute scrums, the next to sing. A pride that jokes but fears nothing.
We are taking them boys to the Hurt Arena this weekend.
The Wallabies are putting up. Jorgensen will take it out to the air, and Jorgensen scores in the right corner.
To win this series, you had to win 2 games, and that's what we're going to go and do next week.
Scottish Grant and Leinster Soul, a Cockney jab and Valleys roll. 4 nations, one very wild crew, with dreams stretched deep in red, gold, white, green and dark blue.
The British and Irish Lions win 2 games to 1 with a remarkable performance in Sydney.
Came as men from different shores to go into test week. Let's hear the Red Sea roll.
It's a matter of hours away now, and it is going to be an absolute cracker tomorrow morning from 10 o'clock as the Lions take on the Wallabies in that all-important second test. Shabana Hearn will be your host for that one. She'll be joined by the legend of the 2013 Lions series Down Under, Alex Cuthbert, as well as Wallabies all-time record try scorer David Campese, and your commentary team of former Lion Ben Kay and Andrew McKenna. It really is a top team. Joining us now, though, for more on this is a man who made 96 appearances for Wales over a 13-year career. He's a 2-time Lions tourist who won an incredible 6 caps. He was also voted Player of the Series for the 2017 Lions Tour to New Zealand. What a CV that is. And it is a very warm welcome to the legend that is former Wales and Lions centre, Jonathan Davies. Jonathan, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to have you with us. I mean, we've got to start with how those players must be feeling ahead of tomorrow. It's a situation you'll have found yourself in. I mean, Topsy's already talked about the fact that it's a night game. You have to wait for so long. You have to be mentally prepared. I mean, are any of those players going to sleep tonight?
Well, whether they sleep naturally or medicated, that's yet to be known.
Don't give away secrets.
But no, like I think all the prep as a team will be done this week with the captain's run today, and it's down to the individual prep. Night before, I had a bit of a routine beforehand where I'd look at all the individuals and the opposing backlines, and I felt that helped give me confidence leading into the test match the next day. And it's like you said, night kickoff, a long day to go through it, and sometimes you can play the game 4 or 5 times, and you get to the actual stadium exhausted. But look, this is why you play the game. These test matches, series on the line for Australia. This is you can't get much bigger than this.
Does it take you back as well? It must do. I mean, what are some of your fondest memories of playing in Melbourne for the Lions?
Well, Melbourne, we actually lost that second test, but like the crowd was incredible, and it's just how it just gathers momentum as the series builds. More and more fans come in for traditionally like the second and third test, and its importance is huge because I think in 2013 a series hadn't been won since '97, and it's a period of time had gone on, and I think it's similar to this tour as well. The Lions need to win this series just to keep almost credit in the actual tour about it, to show it's still valued in rugby. And these games are enormous, and the boys will just be wanting kickoff to come as soon as possible. That's the difficult thing, is the hanging around and getting worked up about it. It's about, and I'm sure Andy Farrell and his team will be making sure that they manage the boys emotionally and slowly drip feed a little bit of excitement through the day. And then when they come to kick off, they're ready to go.
Foxy, I think it's been well documented now what's at stake. Everybody knows what's on the line tomorrow, and you've played in some huge games. So I guess for listeners, what would you say is the best way to make sure that the players go out and perform and don't get overawed by the occasion, by the stakes? How do they make sure that they just go out and do the job? What tips would you give?
For me, I always try to see the positive side of things, not worry about your performance, get excited about the crowd, the atmosphere, and the pressure. When you feel pressure, that's almost like a privilege. That's where people expect you to deliver at the highest stage, and that's how I took it. It was like, right, if I'm feeling pressure, that means I'm one of the best rugby players in Britain and Ireland, and it's my job to go out there and nail this series. And it's that challenge that you take on and you get excited by. And you don't want to get too caught up, you don't want to build up too soon. Like I said, it's a long day, but for me it's trying to get excited and not beat yourself up about what ifs and buts. Just back yourself, go out there and do yourself proud.
We've just spoken to Lawrence Dallaglio about quite an iconic speech from Ian McGeechan on the 97 tour, but there was, of course, Andy Farrell's famous Hurt Arena speech. He gave that team talk on the eve of a test match in which the Lions had the opportunity to secure their first series win in 16 years, very similar to the situation this current Lions team is in. Let's have a listen.
We cannot afford our emotional energy to dip whatsoever. You know why? Because there is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. We are taking them boys to the Hurt Arena this weekend because our mentality is going to be a different mentality than what the British Lions teams have had over the last 16 years, right? A different mentality. Because over the last 16 years, it's been about failure. You shock yourself by taking yourself to another level. Because that's what being a Lion's about. It ain't about anything other than that. It ain't about taking part. It ain't about being here. It's about winning. They won't have that. They won't have that. Make it your point of difference.
I mean, I've got goosebumps. Topsy's got goosebumps. I'm sure you've got goosebumps again, Jonathan. I mean, what is it like to just hear that back, first of all?
Well, it's an incredible speech, and I think how Andy Farrell is a world-class coach. It's about his timing and delivery, and that's the perfect example. Watching that clip back, seeing a fresh face Jonathan Davies in the back, taking it all in.
I did spot you.
Yeah, hell of a mop on me, hell of a mop. No, everything is crucial about timing, and when Faz delivered that, I think everyone there wasn't a word spoken after it, but everyone knew what was at stake and the importance of it. And I think you build momentum, you gather confidence through the tour as a team, and then we were ready for that after that, and there was no way we were going to win. And I'm sure such a speech is being given or was given last night down in Australia, and it's one of those things you try and explain that intensity in the room. It just grips you, and you look back at clips like that and you feel fortunate to have experienced that firsthand.
I mean, it's almost like living in a movie, isn't it? It's like living in a film, the intensity and the aura of it all. And, alongside his speech-making abilities and the way he was able to deliver that, what would you say that the key qualities are about Andy Farrell as a coach, as a person, as a manager?
Well, I think, he was always approachable, and he was always, had good fun off the field, but his attention to detail and how much he cared, it was always a case of if you miss a tackle, I miss a tackle with you in defence, when he was coaching us defence on the Lions tours, and you actually felt that. And and if you had a problem, you could go to him and work on it, and he would go away and come back, and you try and make you better as an individual, not just a team. And the attention to that detail then brings the collective to another level. And I think he's shown that with where he's taken the Ireland team over the last 3 years. He's upskilled all the forwards to be able to draw and give. And it sounds simple, but when you have forwards able to draw and give and play passes, it just creates one-on-ones, which gives you momentum to win collisions and just create speed of ball. And I think that's just the levels that he has, and he's brought to his coaching styles.
We've got to ask you, of course, about the test tomorrow and the centre partnership, because unfortunately Gary Ringrose has had to pull out due to concussion issues. I mean, it must be unbelievably devastating for him, but he's put his health first, he's put the team first. I mean, Andy Farrell himself has said how selfless it is as a decision. What are your thoughts on the situation?
First and foremost, absolutely gutted for Gary. I think he's performed at an elite level for a number of years now, and to be named in the test squad and get that opportunity, and the call he's made is a huge one. It's almost as big as the game. It shows how important for all players really is to take the importance of their health. And it must have taken a huge amount of discipline and character really to make a call like that. And you just hope he gets better soon and he gets an opportunity to be involved in the test series. And it's you just got to with people like that. But like I said, an amazing call by a very headstrong person.
So, Foxy, last week, no Welsh representative. This week, Jack Morgan. I see the smile already. Mm-hmm. He makes the cut. I mean, obviously, gutted for him last week. He must be buzzing this week.
Yeah, I think the pressure of a nation has taken its toll on Andy Farrell. No, I think Jack's been outstanding all tour, and delighted for him to get the opportunity. And hopefully he gets a decent amount of game time to really show what he can do. He's performed extremely well on this tour from stats point of view as well as just general rugby. But a world-class player, and like you said, I think every Welsh person down in Australia can now look forward to being almost part of it in more more of a capacity now.
Well, Jonathan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
There we go. Big thanks to Lions legend Jonathan Davies there. It's good, isn't it, to have a Welsh player in this squad this time around? And he's right. It's the pressure of a nation, isn't it?
It was huge, it was a huge talking point when the original squad was named and there were only 2, of course. You look at where Wales are at the minute and it was like, are we going to get more in? So, yeah, heartbreak in the first test, but, yeah, overjoyed in the second test. And, look, Jack has worked his way in. Yes, he's had some stellar competition, but, yeah, looking forward to seeing him out there tomorrow.
Maybe it was that time they played 10 Wales players. Maybe they're looking at that and say, they had their time. Yeah,
It's the Irish's time now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is the British and Irish Lions kick-off preview show here on talkSPORT ahead of tomorrow's all-important second test between the Wallabies and the Lions. Don't forget, of course, the talkSPORT network has been your home of the Lions for the last 12 years. This year is no different. We'll bring you the final 2 test matches live and exclusively here on talkSPORT, with the all-important second test taking place tomorrow morning. Our coverage starts at 10 o'clock with kickoff at 11 o'clock. Get a bacon butty ready for that one. Get your breakfast ready and tuck into some rugby. We'll be taking a deep dive into the Wallabies with Australian rugby writer Julian Linden in just a moment. We've had to drag him out of bed in the early hours, so thanks to him. But first, let's get a quick update on the darts. It's the PDC World Match Play quarter-finals. Ian Danter is watching for talkSPORT.
And the number 2 seed and world champion Luke Littler is closing in on a semi-final spot, but he's being pushed all the way by Goldfinger Andrew Gilding. It's 14-11 in Littler's favour in a race to 16. Gilding, who's just popped in a bull finish and has just popped in a 160 to get it back to 14-12 to elicit a smirk on the face of the Nuke. He's just not letting Littler get away from him, Gilding. It's really good stuff. Littler's averaging over 100 and it's been consistently on about a 103 average from the first third of this game onwards, but he still is only 2 legs away from a place in the semi-final. The winner of this will take on the winner of Josh Rock and Gerwin Price, who face up next on stage here at the Winter Gardens in Blackpool. And you can follow all the live action free on either the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel with commentary there, or on DAB smart speaker, or on your app on talkSPORT 2.
you come from a land down under? Women go and men wonder.
What a tune this is. I'm going to Australia for the first time this Christmas, for the Ashes.
Oh, mate.
So I'm going to the MCG. Oh, exciting stuff. It might be a bit warmer there, I think, when I'm there.
Hopefully. Well. Australia at Christmas, yes, please.
Going to be lashing down, we're hearing, tomorrow for the big game. This is the British and Irish Lions kick-off preview show here on talkSPORT. I'm Olly Clink. Alongside me is former England winger Topsy Ojo. We all know how big a Lions series is, but not just for the Lions, is it? Also, their opponents, for them, it comes around once every 12 years in a land down under. Joining us for more now ahead of this all-important second test is Australian rugby writer Julian Linden. Julian, very good morning to you, I guess it is.
It is morning here, yes, very early.
What time have we dragged you out of bed?
Hi, guys. Early in the morning, but, look, I was, doing my work as a journalist. I was out just checking that the British and Irish Lions supporters were all doing the right thing. There were reports going around about Welsh people taking a leak down the main street, so I just had to check that it was
classic.
all above board. And it was. So, it's great.
Oh, good stuff. I mean, it's obviously important, this game, for the Lions, because for them, if they take it, they go down in history, of course, those players. But, I mean, this second test, not only for this series, but for Australian rugby, you feel, as a whole, just how important do you feel it is?
Oh, look, it's massive. I mean, Australian rugby, it's no secret, has kind of fallen into a little bit of a hole in recent years. They're banking on this tour for two things. One, they need the dollars that's going to come with it to be able to retain more of their best young talent from being poached from rugby league. But they also need it to sort of win back the hearts of a lot of people in Australia who sort of flick between the different footy codes. 2 years out from the World Cup, they need this to be a competitive series, and so it's really critical that not necessarily they win, but they stick it to the Lions and at least go in 1-1 into a decider.
Just before we move on, it's interesting you say there, obviously, about Australian rugby and where it is at the moment. The Wallabies legend Matt Giteau joined breakfast this morning, and he actually said the Lions are bringing much-needed eyes to rugby union in Australia. Let's have a quick listen.
The beauty of what the Lions and their supporters bring is, like, rugby is popular. Everyone wants to get around it at the moment, and we've not had that in a while. So sold-out stadiums, just the sport getting celebrated, and the buzz is here. So I'm down doing my recce. I'm visiting all the bars at the moment.
Lovely.
just to make sure that we've got some supporters here. So everyone's excited for it. For me, even as a proud Aussie, I want us to win the series, obviously. But for me, it's just so important for even Lions supporters, Australian supporters, that we win this game and it goes to a decider.
I wonder if he's still on the recce of those bars at the moment.
He is. He's always getting himself into scrapes. Julian,
the dedication of that guy, honestly, he will do anything is required. Good on, Matty.
Yeah, he's a good one. What do you make of his thoughts, though, in terms of where Australia rugby is now and what the hope is this does going forward? Obviously, ideally, you take it to a decider, but as long as it's competitive, what does that do for Australia going forward? What does rugby need?
Yeah, look, Matt's right. I mean, what a lot of people overseas don't necessarily understand is that sort of rugby in Australia is sort of collateral damage of a bigger conflict between AFL Aussie rules and rugby league. They're the two codes that are sort of fighting for a bigger national footprint, and they have much bigger broadcast deals, and they're battling each other and expanding all the time. And rugby gets caught up in that because rugby league needs players. So I think there's something like over 350 players with rugby union backgrounds playing in NRL. So to give you an indication of how many players that have been lost to the other code. Now, rugby doesn't have the budget to be able to retain them all, but what we need from a tour like this is two things. We need younger players to see a reason to stay in rugby rather than take the quick bucks on offer. And we also just need the best players to stay as well, and need the supporter base, So, but tours like this do it. The Lions tour captures the imagination in a way that other tours don't. I mean, we play the Bledisloe every year, and it's great, right? But we get flogged or we lose or split the series. But Lions tours are great. There's no greater sort of advertisement for rugby than seeing 20,000, 30,000 British and Irish Lions fans like filling out the pubs and the restaurants and everything. It's great for the game. So it's a really important series. It's an interesting statistic in the 3 modern tours of the Lions: 1989, 2001, 2013. In the subsequent World Cup 2 years later, the Wallabies have made the final every time. And I think that's the flow-on effect that they get from hosting the Lions.
Yeah, you got to cling on to something, haven't you?
Speaking it into existence, eh? World Cup 2022.
Yeah.
Watch out.
You heard it here first. I mean, talking about.
So we need to have these Lions tours every 4 years.
I like it.
I love that. Talking about the test tomorrow, there has been the squad that's been announced, and Will Skelton and Rob Valentini are back in for the Wallabies. I mean, how much of an impact could they make, do you think?
Yeah, look, I think they'll make a big impact, but I wouldn't count on them. I don't know how long they're going to last. I mean, they haven't played for a while, so, they're not going 80 minutes. Okay, so, last week's game, depends on how you look at it. The Wallabies finished well. They won the second half, if there is such a thing. But, it doesn't really mean anything when you're down 24-5 just after they finished Oranges. They need to have a better first half to stay in the contest, and I think that's what these guys will do. Bobby V in particular is a great ball carrier. He does a lot of work. He's a big bruising guy who has speed and he will do a lot. Will Skelton, obviously he's got size about him, which, will help us in different ways. The scrum was good last week anyway, but he'll help with the scrum. Bit of go forward. Not much use to us in the lineouts because he's too heavy to lift. But I think the main thing those guys will give... Look, I've written in my columns this week, they're not a silver bullet. Like, the return of these guys will help, but the most important thing is the other forwards have to lift. Like, they were out-muscled in the physical contest last week by the Lions, and if you don't win the physical contest up front, you just don't win the game. So they got a free lesson midweek from the, I don't know if you've spoken earlier to your listeners about the First Nations Pacifica game, but that was great old school rugby. Like, they just came out and bashed them, as you can these days within the laws, but they just came out and hit people. And it doesn't matter how good you are. The Lions are very good, obviously, but when you get hit by big blokes, you pause for a moment, So that was the blueprint on what they need to do. So Bobby V, Willie Skelton, terrific, but it doesn't mean anything unless the rest of the forwards, man up as well.
Julian, just have to ask you quickly about Joe Soili. Of course, a lot of eyes on him coming into the series. Playing 13, but some thinking maybe he should be at fullback. What do you make of his position?
100% he should be at fullback.
Oh, okay. Tell us more.
Yeah, can't believe it. I watched Super Rugby all season. So he was a fullback when he played his junior rugby at King's School when he was a little whippersnapper, and he's a great fullback. He was the best fullback in Super Rugby this season, and the Waratahs played him at fullback. And Dan McKellar, who was former Leicester coach who coached the Waratahs, went to Joe Schmidt halfway through the season and said, "Mate, do you want me to play him at outside centre for the Wallabies?" And he said, "No, play him wherever you like." So he stuck with him at fullback, and he played there, and he was great. I would have him there every day of the week. The problem, I guess, we have is that we don't necessarily have a great inside centre. So what we're doing is we're moving sort of, the chairs on the Titanic a little bit. So Lenny Ikitau, who's playing inside, is the best outside centre in Australia. So, he's playing out of position. And it's all because we just don't have an inside. But, I mean, we do have some guys who could do the job. Hunter Paisami, who plays for Queensland, is a big, bruising, wrecking ball type of player. I would put him in there. But actually, I think if there's one weakness that the Lions might have made in their selection this week, it could be at the centres. I think they should have stuck with Sione. Not totally convinced that the makeup of the centre pairing they've got this week is their best with Bunn and Hughes. So, yeah.
Julian, thank you very much indeed. We'll let you go back to bed, mate.
Oh, mate, lucky to catch me. I was just about to go for a run. Yeah, right.
There we go.
Enjoy the game tomorrow. Thanks very much for your time there, Julian Linden, Australian rugby writer. And interesting points there that Suaalii says should be at fullback, but also not quite confident about that Lions pairing.
Well, again, you look at the centre pairings, what they prepared up to the first test. It was Ireland or Scotland. So now you've got a split where the guys haven't played. So if you're thinking of where you can get two guys who are maybe on a different page, it might be in that 12-13 combination, because that's quite key to a defensive system. On Suaalii, again, it's a question of how do you get your best, most dangerous, most exciting player the ball. We saw it years ago with Jason Robinson. You see it now. You put him at fullback, teams will kick. He's going to get the ball in a bit more space to operate. But yeah, tomorrow's 13, so heavy traffic, heavy lifting, but maybe he can expose the line centres. Who knows?
Okay, this is the British and Irish Lions preview show. In just a moment here on talkSPORT, we'll be speaking about Owen Farrell, who's been named in tomorrow's Test squad. Our coverage, of course, is sponsored by Tenor Men. Keep control.
Drop goal that Johnny Wilkinson talked about. It's a monster from Farrell. It's a monster!
It doesn't change anything necessarily, but the bloke's rugby royalty. Like, he goes down as one of the best ever, and this confirms that.
It's an honour. It is. Yeah, I'm not taking anything for granted at the minute. I'm very excited to be here, first and foremost.
He's made for that Test arena. His temperament just doesn't shift. Hopefully he slots the winning goal.
This is the British and Irish Lions kick-off preview here on talkSPORT. I'm Olly Clink. Alongside me is the former London Irish and England winger Topsy Ojo. Just before we get to Owen Farrell, by the way, Topsy, we've just got to bring it up, haven't we? When Lawrence Dallaglio came into the studio, if you were listening a bit earlier on, we had the Lions legend in, Lawrence Dallaglio. And if you were listening closely, maybe if you had your headphones in, you could hear this studio just shaking. Such is the size of the man. There's not a studio big enough to bring in a big old number 8 like Lawrence Dallaglio.
The size of the man and all the medals just rattling around in his pockets from years. Just Lions tours, World Cups, Premiership titles. Yeah, fair play. Man.
It was eye-opening, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Some of the things he had to say, and talking about how much that 97 tour means to him. Even putting it above the World Cup in 03.
Yeah,
it's quite the statement, isn't it?
It's huge because, obviously, what a pleasure to be able to pick from the two of them. Which one do you go for? But yeah, I guess something about that, maybe he was a bit younger coming in, like doing something that actually is very rare. Obviously, winning the World Cup is very rare, but in terms of a Lions series, trying to bring four nations together in a short period of time and go and play the best team in the world, what a challenge, what a mountain to climb, and they did it. And obviously he played a central part in that tour.
Now let's turn our attention to Owen Farrell, who's been named on the bench for this weekend's test for the Lions. If Owen does make it onto the pitch, it will be his 22nd time playing for the Lions on his 4th tour, which is quite astonishing, really, isn't it? Lions head coach and Owen's dad, Andy Farrell, explained why he decided to call up his son.
Yeah, with Blair back fit, it gives you a different dynamic on the bench. They're covering, obviously, the back three, which is pretty important. And Owen giving you the option there to cover 10-12.
Does that kind of make sense, what Andy's saying there? Does that ring true for you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you look at, obviously, the moving parts elsewhere, particularly in the centres, with no Tuipulotu to cover Aki like for like, they needed a 12 cover on the bench, so Owen comes in and does that. He also covers 10, which means he jumps ahead of Marcus Smith. With Blair Kinghorn in there as well, covering the back three. Again, also, you don't need Marcus Smith on the bench as well. And look, I mean...
Do you feel a bit for Marcus Smith? You know, in a sense, you're kind of a bit there like, you know, why did you bring him on the tour?
Yeah, it's been a difficult year for Marcus. I mean, he's a brilliant 10 who became this utility player who could cover 15 and all of a sudden got picked in the Lions as more as a 15 cover as opposed to 10. You just want to be out there playing, but he said previously he'll play where you ask him, but he wants to play 10. And it's been one of those years where his versatility is maybe counted against him. So it'll be interesting going forwards to see what happens. But yeah, it's been a difficult tour. He won't say that because he can't. He won't voice how he really feels. But yeah, he wants to play fly half, and at the moment he can't.
And also, with all the noise around Owen Farrell, I mean, you've talked about there just how useful it is, the fact that he is also a 12, etc. I mean, when you look at the fact that, you know, obviously there's the dynamic and the relationship that he is Andy Farrell's son, which does get brought into it, because it all feels a bit kind of school rugby, doesn't it? You know, the coach playing his son just because he wants it, etc. You know, do you think that adds to the spotlight of it all?
Yeah, it adds to the noise. It's an easy stick to throw.
Yeah,
he's only picked his son, and, you know, why did you call him up when it wasn't a like-for-like replacement? But it was called from the moment Owen was brought into the squad. It was almost inevitable he was going to appear in the Test series. And yes, the chips have fallen in his favour, but actually what he's shown since coming back, despite not being in form or fit, is his quality. That game against the First Nations on Tuesday, it was quite chaotic, but he was the calm in and amongst all of that. Just did the basics so well, kept the team ticking forward, moving forward, had an assist for a try as well. So again, when you're looking in a game that what's going to come tomorrow, that atmosphere, it's going to be fire, brimstone. Owen will come on in the second half and control the game. He'll get the Lions over the line in his fourth Lions tour. He's got over 100 England caps, so his experience will be there as needed.
Well, we've also got to talk about the England 10 position, really, though, haven't we? Because obviously you've got Owen Farrell, you've got Marcus Smith, you've got Finn Smith, and George Ford. And George Ford's been excellent as well against Argentina. So, I mean, it's a real conundrum. When we're talking about Owen Farrell, is he the kind of player that would fit into a Steve Borthwick England side, in your opinion?
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, you know, obviously he was captain at the World Cup before he went. I'd say let's not jump ahead. I mean, it's a brilliant problem to have, but, you know, Owen, yes, he's back now, but he's yet to play a game for Saracens. He's going to have a break after this tour and then get back into the swing. Of course, he knows Saracens like the back of his hand, but there is still a reintegration. Marcus Smith, I imagine, will bounce back, all guns blazing, ready to prove a point this year. Finn Smith will continue his journey. And George Ford, who I absolutely love, again, just picked up his 100th cap on the tour to Argentina that England have won. So a great problem to have. Let's see where they all are come end of October going into the series. And good luck, Steve Borthwick.
Well, I was going to say, right, Topsy Ojo, you are Steve Borthwick.
Right.
The World Cup final is tomorrow. It's all on the line. Who are you playing?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, finals tomorrow, right? Who are you picking as your number 10?
Right. If the final is tomorrow, are they all fit and on form?
They're all fit on form. They're all flying.
Me? I'm torn. I mean,
I love how you try to delay it there as well. So they're all fit, are they?
Well, yeah, you know, I needed context. Me personally, I think I lean George Ford. I think Steve Borthwick picks Owen Farrell.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
I do. Because when England have been at their highest of highs in terms of the last World Cup, in terms of 2019, yes, it's been Ford and Farrell, but Farrell has always been the guy. And actually, as we've seen in this series coming up tomorrow, when the big occasion arises, you roll out your big guns.
So why would you go for George Ford then?
Because I've seen George operate at a highest level in so many occasions. I mean, I had a front row seat for 2023, the World Cup opening game, lost the player, red card, and obviously lost Owen Farrell to suspension. George Ford stepped up and delivered and took England through those group stages when their backs were against the wall and no one thought they would progress. So, yeah, maybe a bit of a soft spot in terms of he tends to be England's forgotten man. I'm like, he's got 100 caps. He's a quality player who tends to sometimes get... How can you forget about a guy who's got 100 caps? I mean, doesn't make sense to me. He tends to always get overlooked. But yeah, I'm a big fan of George.
Poor old Marcus Smith, left out again, I guess.
There's 4 10s to pick from. What do you want me to do? Like, come on, guys, please.
Oh, I'm only kidding, Topsy. Right, before we move on, here at talkSPORT, we've been debating what the nation's second favourite sport is. So, here's talkSPORT's Alfie Reynolds with why rugby should be considered the nation's second favourite sport.
Hi, I'm Alfie Reynolds, talkSPORT's rugby reporter, and I think rugby union should be the nation's second sport. What other sport combines the sheer ferocity, power, athleticism and violence of rugby, but also you have a beer in the clubhouse afterwards and it brings everyone together? The respect, the aggression, it's all part of the game, from the leafy suburbs of West London to the valleys in Wales, the borders in Scotland. It is a game for all shapes and sizes. That is why rugby should be the nation's second sport.
Your Lions Uncaged co-host there, Alfie Reynolds, Topsy. I mean, come on then, sell it to us. Why should rugby, for you, be the nation's second favourite sport?
Well, Alfie touched on a lot of things there, but I think in terms of, well, hang on, why is it not the nation's favourite sport?
Oh, well, yeah, go on, tell us that.
Just throwing that one in there as well. Right. It should be the nation's second favourite sport because it allows you to do so many things, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. On the pitch, you're with 15 of what become your best mates doing a sport, a job that you love. It teaches you discipline, resilience, hard work, things that you can then take into your life away from the pitch. Like I say, some wonderful memories. Some of my best friends now are friends that I made through rugby. It is a brilliant sport that gives you camaraderie on the pitch and, of course, off the pitch as well. What other sport do you get to sit side by side with opposition, share an alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage of your choosing and have the best time watching your favourite sport? From the youngest to the oldest, it goes through generations. You can take your son, you can take your granddad, your grandma, all the family to go and enjoy a great day out of rugby. It's a brilliant, brilliant sport. It allows you to express yourself in ways that other sports can't as well. Physically, legally, go and express, get out all that emotion out on the pitch and then shake hands with your teammate afterwards. Where else do you get to do that?
And you're right, seeing it live is an unbelievable day out. In fact, I found it quite ironic there that Alfie Reynolds brought up the beer in the clubhouse, because I went to watch England at Twickenham once and I texted Alfie and I said, yeah, let's go for a quick beer afterwards. He had his media duties. He was like, yeah, just one sec, mate. I've just got to interview Eddie Jones and I'll be straight out. All right, mate. All right, Mr. Big Time. Anyway, he said, yeah.
I was going to say, you don't get Daniel Craig in the changing room at any other sport, do you?
That's very true,
Bringing the boys crates of champagne. So there you go.
Champagne as well. Good old James Bond. Always delivers.
Not the cheap stuff either.
Yeah. Anyway, Alfie was there saying, let's meet at the line-out bar. I turn up there and he was in the cabbage patch. So cheers for that, Alf. Yeah, beer in the clubhouse afterwards, is it? So he's got a bit more convincing for me to do. But no, you're right. Of course, rugby union, what a sport it is for all of those reasons that you and Alfie have just laid out there. And don't forget, Alfie and Topsy will be bringing you all of the fallout from the second test on Lions Uncaged. It is such a good listen. It's this Sunday from 11 o'clock on talkSPORT 2. And if you've missed any of it, you can catch up. It's as a podcast as well in all of the usual places. You are listening to the British and Irish Lions kickoff preview show here on talkSPORT ahead of tomorrow's all-important second test between the Wallabies and the Lions. We have been your home of the Lions for the last 12 years. This year is no different. The final 2 tests are also live and exclusive here on talkSPORT, and that second test, all of the coverage starts from 10 o'clock with Shabana Hearn with a crack team alongside her. Right, up next, we're going to hear from the Wallabies' all-time record try scorer, David Campese, and his hot take on this weekend's action. Isn't it Kylie? Getting in the mood already, aren't we?
I said we're doing the rounds, aren't we?
We are, yeah. Do you like a bit of Kylie?
I don't mind a bit of Kylie, but
really?
Yeah.
What's your favourite song?
Spinning Around.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice. Is that the only one you could think of? Was
it? The first one that came to mind.
Oh, this is the British and Irish Lions kickoff preview show here on talkSPORT ahead of tomorrow's all-important second test between the Wallabies and the Lions. I'm Olly Clink. Alongside me is the former England winger and huge Kylie Minogue fan, Topsy Ojo. We've got another incredible weekend of live sporting action coming up for you on talkSPORT. All kicks off with the Wallabies against the Lions in that second test from 10 o'clock tomorrow. Shabana Hearn will be your host for that one, and she'll be joined by 2013 Lions legend Alex Cuthbert, as well as Wallabies all-time record try scorer David Campese, and your commentary team of former line Ben Kay and Andrew McKenna. We're going to hear from Campese in just a second. He's had a hot take. Can you believe it, Topsy?
Shock.
Really? Over on talkSPORT 2 across the weekend, we'll be bringing you live commentary of the finals of the World Darts Match Play as well, up in Blackpool. And if that wasn't enough, we're also over in Switzerland for the big one, the Lionesses, who are looking to defend their Euros crown against Spain this weekend. Of course, it's on Sunday. It's at 5 o'clock, and that's when it all kicks off. Topsy, I mean, we want to do our final previews heading into this game, but I just want to talk to you quickly about the venue tomorrow, because it's a 100,000-seater stadium, the MCG. It's the home of Australian sport, let alone rugby as well. I mean, in your career especially, you know, where were some of the more special venues that you played at, would you say?
Twickenham, or now the Allianz, was always the big one for me. 80,000 people, whether that's for club or country, you know you're going to walk out and there's going to be a huge crowd. What you do is you just take it all in. You kind of walk out there early. The players will get there and it won't be full. You know, it'll be half empty. Fans will start working their way in. But when you come out for the warm-up and when you come out later, when you walk out for real, take a second to take it all in, to appreciate what you're walking into, and then understand you've got a job to do. And then afterwards, take it all in again, because, you know, these opportunities are rare. You know, this is a once in a 12-year thing, and actually, will any of these players get to play in the MCG again? Probably not. So, again, they're there to do a job, but you want to appreciate what you've got in and around you as well. And what a wonderful occasion to actually step up and play your best game in the best arena, in front of all the eyes of the world watching. I mean, what a privilege. I think John Davies said, privilege. Yeah. Go out and enjoy it. Go and make the most of it.
And they've got to turn it into the Hurt Arena.
Yeah,
of course.
That's it. Everything that comes with it. Go and enjoy yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, we've just been talking about, obviously, your incredible experiences. Let's hear from the former England centre, Mike Tindall, who told talkSPORT why playing at the MCG will be so special for the Lions.
That is what you play the game for, and there isn't a bigger stadium, more iconic stadium. So it's going to be close to capacity, if not at capacity. You know, that's something you've just got to absorb. That's why you play the game. And, you know, as long as they go out there and have fun, I think it's the same for Australia. A lot of pressure on their shoulders. Obviously, some changes in theirs. It shows they're going to step up the physicality a bit, but they have got rockets all over their back line that I'd love to see activated a bit more than they were last week, and hopefully we see a cracking game. And, you know, everything sporting about me wants a decider, but I know the Lions boys will want to put it to bed pretty quickly.
I've got to ask Topsy, because I've obviously never had the experience that you have had of playing at a stadium like that, you know, with so many people in attendance. When are the moments where the noise hits you the most? I can only imagine it's probably during the walk-up, maybe after the national anthem. I don't know. When was the moment when you're there thinking, wow, this is a huge stage that I'm playing on?
It's when you walk out just before the anthems. That's when the stage is set. You've done all your preparation. It's probably full at that point because people want to be in their seats for the anthems, and that's where you kind of take it all in. So obviously you walk out, you turn around, and you can see just colour, people, fans, noise, support everywhere, and you're taking it all in. You're probably trying to make eye contact with your family as well, just to make sure that they've got in okay. But yeah, that's your moment to breathe, be like, right, here we go, to enjoy it. It is special. It's really special. And again, another reason why rugby should be the second favourite sport is occasions like this. I mean, what a wonderful experience. Whether you're playing or in the stands as well, you only get so many opportunities to do things like this. So go and make the most of it, you know.
And you're right as well, actually, because it might be for some of these fans, this, you know, for some of them, it might be the only tour they end up going to, and being part of that red wall is going to be such an experience for them.
Huge. Especially off the back of the last tour where there were no fans. Families will have planned saying, we are going to Australia. This is once in a lifetime we're going to be able to do this. So let's go and make it the best experience. And what an experience this will be tomorrow.
Oh, yes. Even in the rain.
Even in the rain. Doesn't matter. Sing and dance in the rain. Cheer on the Lions. Sea of Red will be there. Go back and forth with the Australians. It's all good.
Yeah, and bring it home, boys. Bring it home. Ahead of the big game, of course, the Wallabies' all-time record try scorer, David Campese, joined the TalkSPORT Breakfast Show a bit earlier and had this very bold claim about how the game will play out.
Well, I did mention last week to the supporters in Brisbane, I said, if you don't beat us by 30, you should all go home. We had four warm-up games. The Wallabies had one warm-up game, was a bit of a mess. Didn't pick a total different team. You just won. I mean, it doesn't matter about one. You won the game, fair enough. For me, there were signs against the Brumbies, at the ruck area that the Brumbies counted well. The Lions tried to throw the ball around a bit. Sort of fell apart. I think Australians, you never underestimate the Wallabies. I think it's going to be a very close game, but I think we might just get up by 1 or 2 points.
There we go. So he is predicting the series to still be alive. Does he have a point about the breakdown there for you, Topsy? It seems to have been a bit of a weakness, really, for the Lions across the tour.
Absolutely. He is spot on. The first test, 50 minutes, was probably the best the Lions have been in terms of the breakdown, but the warm-up games have shown, and the First Nations game on Tuesday showed that is one area that you can get stuck into the Lions. And if you disrupt their flow, if you pick and choose the right moments to get into the breakdown, you turn the ball over, all of a sudden you're back on attack. So yeah, I mean, I love Campo, and actually he needs to be that guy, because what Australia need now is everybody behind them. They don't need people saying, oh, what's the point? We're going to lose 2-0. It's going to be 3-0. Australian rugby's in the doldrums. No, you need one of your most famous, legendary players saying the boys are going to get it done. And they will hear that. It always works its way back into the players. They'll feed off that. The next person will say it. Someone else will believe it. Matt Gitto said the same.
It's fighting talk, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, and they need it, because at the moment, Australian rugby is backs against the wall. Everybody's coming for them. So what a way to make a statement in this huge arena to say, Australia, no. We're here, we're back, and we're going to fight and take it to 1-1.
We also know that Joe Schmidt is a kind of coach who likes to pinpoint areas of teams that he thinks his team can exploit. I think it's one of his key skills as a coach. We saw that when he was there with Ireland as well. Where else then do you think the Wallabies could pick out if they want to beat the Lions?
The kicking game would be another one, especially if the conditions are what we think they are. If it's going to be wet, what he'll want is his forwards to set a platform for his halfbacks, Gordon and Liner, to kick very well. And that's actually how you get Suaalii into the game, in terms of using his AFL, NRL background. Right, there's a high ball, go and win it 1-on-1. It's what they did very well against England in the autumn and what got them to victory. So be direct up front, give us a platform, and then kick well. And then, like we just said, smash the breakdown.
And the conditions will play a part with that, of
Absolutely.
course, as well.
So if it does become a bit of 10-man rugby, more tactical, more cagey, all right, let's do it. But yeah, break down, be physical, and kick well.
We haven't even talked about the fact that the Wallabies have picked a 6-2 bench as well. I mean, what do you read into that?
No secrets there. No secrets. You front 8, empty the tank. There's 6 on the bench ready to come on. So even if you only last a half, give me everything you've got. Ideally, let's get you to 50, 60 minutes. Get us in the game. Keep us in the game. Make it competitive. And then there's another 6 forwards to come on and finish the job. So 6-2 is quite a new thing now. An old thing. It's not that much of a surprise, but it tells you everything you need to know about what Australia's tactics are tomorrow.
Well, it is nearly here. The Lions take on the Wallabies in the second test of the series in just over 12 hours. Set your alarms. It's going to be live and exclusive right here on talkSPORT in Melbourne, with coverage starting from 10 o'clock and kick off at 11. Get a cup of tea, get a bacon butty, and settle in for it. Shabana Hearn will be your host for that one, and she'll be joined by the legend of the 2013 Lions series Down Under, Alex Cuthbert, as well as Wallabies all-time record try scorer, the man with the hot takes, David Campese, and your commentary team of former Lion Ben Kay and Andrew McKenna. Alfie Reynolds will also be getting drenched on pitch side inside the cauldron that is the MCG. The weather forecast, of course, we're expecting very heavy rain, and he and Topsy will also bring you a post-match reaction show on Sunday over on talkSPORT 2. That will be released as a podcast as well. Lions Uncaged is a fantastic listen. Topsy, before we go, I believe it's a certain man's birthday on Monday. Is that right?
It is. Thank you. Yes,
we don't have to mention which one it is, but
well, we can. I don't mind. I don't mind. Not scared of the number. It is my 40th on Monday.
I would never believe it.
I know.
I would never believe it. Don't look a day over 50.
I know. It's thanks to my unofficial sponsor, Palmer's, for looking after me over all the years. But yeah, another birthday coming on Monday.
Well, enjoy that. I hope you're celebrating it after a Lions series win as well. And it's been a pleasure tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. Love the last 2 hours. And yeah, can't wait for tomorrow morning.
Great stuff. Well, make sure you tune into it tomorrow morning from 10. The big one, the Lions against the Wallabies. We have it for you live here on talkSPORT. Up next, though, don't go anywhere. It's the Sports Bar Weekender with Ben Fletcher and Carlton Cole.